Exactly.
All right, it says 9:30, so we will go ahead and get started. Well, it's a great day to be in Pensacola. It's certainly a great time of the year. I had to wear my white pants because I can wear them at least one more time. This is the last time I can wear them, so I did wear them today. But it's a great time. My favorite tennis tournament started today. Football is in the air. It starts. College football starts this weekend. Of course, for some of us, Kareth, it's already started, and some people already 1-0, and some teams are 0-1. So I just feel good about my team right now. So, anyways, it's a great time of year as we move forward and transition into the fall. One of those things that certainly transitions that I'm looking forward to is and I know I was asked about it this morning on WCOA. I was asked about town halls, and I believe we're going to be having a couple more coming up. We're kind of going to get back to that. It's sort of the summer. Everybody's schedules goes all over the place, so we're going to be back at it. We're also going to be looking to get back and doing our work days. I think Lauren has a date scheduled up for me soon to go out with inspections, so I'm looking forward to spending the day with inspections and seeing what they do. So again, we're going to be getting back to the normalcy. I think all of us kind of, the summer's sort of over now. I was up this past weekend, saw my daughter in her place. She starts classes today, so I'm excited for her. So I know everybody's kind of hit back to school, and it's getting back into the things of normalcy of the school year. So we're certainly happy about that. I was honored to be the guest speaker last week at the Greater Pensacola Chamber of Commerce, the State of the City. I really appreciate the Chamber willingness to put that on, and I think that's going to be a good event to put on. I think they're doing the state of the base and the state of the county and the state of the school system every quarter, and I think that will be a good thing for the community to see that go through every quarter and be able to see a different part. So I really appreciate the Chamber. I think it's good in the discussion happening. I certainly want to congratulate and thank our Assistant City Administrator, Kareth Fiddler. He spoke, and Kareth, I certainly appreciate you did a great job talking about things that we're doing and the changes we're making here to really make things happen. Anything else, again, I think it was, as far as that whole thing, I think it was very good, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on stage with some city employees. Certainly, I think we've got a lot of good things happening here. It was also very exciting last week to be recognized as the strongest town, and I meant to bring my plaque down here and have that for us at this press conference, but I think Robert is looking for a place for it to go. But I said I'm the strong mayor of the strongest town, so I got to go work out after this so I can make sure we're still staying strong. But it's very exciting to see strong towns recognize the City of Pensacola. A lot of that work certainly goes to the work that we're doing, but it also certainly goes to the work that I think Quint and the News Journal have done, Studer Institute, for really engaging with Civicon. I think they've changed the whole discussion about what we do. I thought the editorial over the weekend talking about where we are and how we make our community better. That's certainly what Lawrence is doing in his job, is making sure that every neighborhood feels engaged and that we're trying to make progress in every neighborhood. So I think along those lines, it's exciting to see that, and it's exciting to see people engaged in their community. And Jim, you just missed all the love I was giving the News Journal. So, but it was a good, I thought, editorial this weekend, and we were just talking about being the strong mayor of the strongest town. So, but anyways, we're going to continue to keep moving forward. Certainly, Strong Towns is an international movement dedicated to making communities throughout the U.S. and Canada financially strong and resilient, and we certainly were honored to be selected as their strongest town this year. I'd also like to give a shout out. I see Chief Craner in the back. A shout out to the Pensacola Fire Department, Parks and Rec, and the Wildlife. I see Brian back there as well, Parks and Rec and Wildlife Sanctuary, for teaming up to rescue a baby osprey who had gotten stuck in a tree in the city right away near Bayou Tahar. It was a difficult rescue, but firefighters were able to maneuver the ladder between trees and power lines and safely get the osprey down. We were happy to report the osprey made it safely to the Wildlife Sanctuary to rest and recover from the incident. So we appreciate everybody doing that, and glad to see the work of Fire Department and Parks and Rec getting that done. So thank you very much about that. I'd also like to thank Cub Scout Pack 5, who's made me somewhat of a social media sensation trying to teach civics. So we're getting a lot of requests for civics up here. So we're happy to have, and we're working on getting some different groups up here. We'd certainly love for them to be there, and it's always a good experience. I enjoy being there with kids and getting them to do it, but it's always hard for them to figure out a topic. So I figured when no homework was one they would pick up and we'd be able to get it passed. So we were. I did tell them I don't know how much authority you're going to have. You're going to have to find a mayor that will enforce that. But at this particular time, they had a lot of fun seeing how legislation is made and passed, and I thought it was a good experience for them. And they're not the only group we've done that for. We've done that for several others. I did that when I was at the county. I used to enjoy taking kids in and putting some of them up on the dais and letting them see what it was like to sit up there. So I think it's always a good experience we can do for our young people and show them what happens in local government. So I appreciate that opportunity to be a part of that. Just a reminder, this weekend, Morris Court Park, ribbon cutting on Saturday, August 31st at 10 a.m. We'll be celebrating the improvements for the park, which is located at 1401 West Lloyd. Again, Brian and his group have been extra active. We keep them very active. They keep improving every park, and we're working to make every park we can. And I'm excited about the improvements we have there at Morris Court. So it's going to be exciting to have that happen. I'm also excited to announce another great new hire. We have selected Matt Coughlin as the Deputy Airport Director with the start date of Monday, September 9th. Matt joins us from Escambia County, where he has most recently served as the interim county administrator and assistant county administrator. He was previously with the city and worked at the airport as the assistant airport director, and he also has a 24-year career as a naval officer and aviator that includes serving Naval Air Station Whiting Fields Base Commanding Officer from 2011 to 2014. So we're glad to have him join our team as well. Again, these are things that we think are making us better as this team comes together. So we're very excited about the work we have to do and the team members we have to work with. So again, that's a little bit about where we are today, the state and the city. Happy to answer any questions, and we'll go from there. Dave.
Mayor, could you kind of walk us through the procedure to replace Councilman Wingate?
Okay. I can tell you, I believe it's that Tuesday after we come back from Labor Day. Is that the 3rd or the 4th?
4th.
Oh, 4th, so it's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay. Wednesday, September 4th, we're going to have a special meeting. The City Council will. The City Council's all doing this. It's not the mayor. There are 10 names. I don't have all 10 sitting in front of me, but there are 10 names that have been submitted that the council members will meet with, have a chance to choose from. Now again, the votes, I assume, will continue to take place until somebody gets 4 votes. So we may, it's just like what happens with the chair, we may go through a number of different ballots. I'm sure they will work that process through on that evening. I met with Sherry Myers last week. I joked with her because I know, and I appreciate where Sherry was. Sherry said, listen, if anybody comes to me, I'm going to put as many people that want, I'm either all in or all out, and I appreciate where she was. I think she got a number of people in there. I did remind her, I said, Sherry, you may can nominate anybody you want to, but you only have 1 vote. But she's well aware of that, and I think they all are, but I think it's good. I think it's exciting to see that we have 10 people interested in doing that. Again, as I said last time, my only issue was I endorsed a concept. I'm not getting involved in who they select. I just think it'll be an interesting process, and I don't think it will happen on the first ballot. I'd be shocked. So I think we're going to have multiple ballots, so we'll see what happens. But the good news is we had 10 people who want to do that. So I think that speaks, to what's happened. One of the reasons I thought the concept that I endorsed, certainly, I think we'll have a number of people that would be interested in running for that seat if it was an open seat. And I think it just encourages more people to get involved. Just like we had 6 people run for mayor, having 10 people for this seat, I think shows that there are people that want to be a part of the community. And I think that speaks volumes to what I think this whole team is doing and bringing things forward, good things for the city. So to me, it's exciting to have 10 people that want to do it and are willing to put themselves out there for it. So that's, at this point, the city council will make that decision.
Are the nominations closed now?
Yes. Closed as of Friday.
And it's a city council decision, but do you have a...
No. Again, I've endorsed the concept that I believe should be out there. I believe that concept should be that I would hope they would pick somebody that was looking to do it just for the remainder of the term. But again, that has nothing to do with the person. It has everything to do with the with allowing District 5. And I think it'd be exciting to have a campaign with that many people interested in wanting to serve. I think that's what we want. We want good people to want to serve the city of Pensacola. So I'm excited that we have 10 people, council members. And, and my whole goal is we need a good council. By no means I said, I want to make the council something people want to be a part of, a team that we want to participate in. So the fact that we have 10 candidates interested, I think that's a good sign for where we're going in the community. Yes.
So the Dream Defenders identified the officer in the time on Crawford Street. What is the reaction to them within the police department?
Again, we respond to a public record request. I think it's disappointing that I don't think it serves anything. I think we let justice go through at the point that was happening. We responded to a public records request. Again, I asked the question: Are we trying to find justice? Or are we trying to find agendas? And I'm not sure what that accomplished. But we responded to a public records request. We had to.
Have you spoken with them since then?
I have not.
Dream Defenders, not.
I have not.
Do you have any comments on the rally they have planned?
Again, I've said that from the beginning. If we're talking about respectfully working together, you're going to find this office here to want to find ways to work together. If the idea is to press agendas and do certain other things, that's not what we're about. We're about making a better Pensacola. So if there are things that we can do that find ways to make us work together and make Pensacola better, we're more than happy. If the idea is to approve a certain agenda and move a certain thing forward, that's not what we're looking to do. We just want to make Pensacola better. You look like you have a question there, Andrew.
Well, Gulf Breeze is putting in a temporary moratorium on allowing franchise businesses to operate in the CRA. They want to preserve business space for local businesses to thrive because they're kind of getting built out. Is that something that you have looked at all? Is the relevant impact of either franchise operations versus local businesses, and to what degree can foster local more?
Well, we certainly are trying to foster more local business. It's one of the things we've been working, even with Brian Weir, with the minority, the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber. And last week we had one of the things we did last week as well. We hosted several, service members, their spouses, or veterans and their spouses that want to look at opening small businesses. I appreciate our staff, city staff, along with the SBA and the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber put that on. Again, our whole goal is to find ways to foster local businesses. I don't think the city of Pensacola and the city of Gulf Breeze are necessarily at the same spot. We have lots of room to build out. I don't think that's necessarily an issue for us at space at this particular time. They have such a small retail corridor that they need to protect. I certainly understand why Cherry and they're looking at those kind of things in their city. At this point, it's not something for us, but what we do want to do, and what we are still looking at, is procurement issue. And I think it's, we talked about some of that local procurement and the things with the covenant. Even last week at the Earl Bowden, I think Quint made the comment about us and where we were with that. And I saw Scott Remington, and as I reminded Scott that Susan told me the ball's in his court, so he told me Megan Fry is going to start working on that, and I think Megan and Susan are still trying to bring that forward. Much more of an ordinance of how we allow local businesses to participate in our procurement. At the county, we certainly gave some preferences for local part. I'm willing to look at some of those things, and I've told Scott then, and I said, make some suggestions to us. What can we do, and let's figure out how we create an ordinance. So I don't know that we're going to go to the same extent Gulf Breeze is, but I think you're going to see the city of Pensacola want to encourage local businesses' participation in procurement, and certainly minority business procurement as well. I think those are things we want to see both increase. I think it's the idea of the covenant and what was there, and certainly we have some things in place. So it's a little bit different than what the county did because we already have some legislation in place. We just need to shape it along what we wanted to. And I remember Susan did send it back and said it's in your court. And when I talked to Scott, he said, he's got a different attorney that's going to be working with us and respond back to us. So we're looking how we can shape that a little bit and make it fit within the ordinances that are already at the City of Pensacola. But I think you're going to see something, not necessarily like what Gulf Breeze did, but something that's going to encourage local and minority participation.
You met with the Dream Defenders earlier this month, and you said you were open to the civilian oversight. Has that changed at all?
I am open to a citizens advisory committee that we've had before. Again, I've learned there's some challenges in the nuances of what things are called. I thought we were all talking about the same thing, but I realized some of these things aren't there. But we certainly have no problem being involved with the citizens. We certainly have no problem being engaged out in the community. These were things that I thought we came out of that meeting that we're still happy to work with. But again, I want to work with partners that are really willing to work for what we want to do. If again, some of these things that have happened have been somewhat disappointing to me. I don't think they're necessarily. We try to be very respectful of letting the process go through and allowing it true justice to happen at that point, and then we will evaluate everything as it comes forward. We don't control that process. FDLE does, and the state attorney's office, and we'll simply comply with any decisions that they make, and then we'll move from there.
Have you heard at all from the FDLE?
I have not. Y'all asked me last week. The only thing I heard, like I said last week, was that when somebody said they saw something, that they came to City Hall and wanted to meet with those individuals. We have not heard any more. At least I have not heard any more from FDLE. And Chris is saying that City has not heard any more from FDLE since then.
After the first meeting with the Dream Defenders, they had said that y'all had agreed to another meeting on August 30th. Is that still happening?
We are scheduled for a meeting on August 30th.
What are y'all going to discuss at that meeting?
I think more along the lines of what was discussed the other day, how the training will necessarily work. We've talked about training. We've talked about being involved in neighborhoods. How do we deal with those two things? And then how do we deal with a citizen committee? Again, my understanding is we've done that in the past here, and we certainly want to work through any things we can. And I think from the police's perspective as well, I think they would love to see the actual things that my understanding is they would love to work through and show where Tommy says they have exactly. It shows what they do, tickets, stops, variety of things by race, everything else. He's like, listen, I'd love to have a committee that worked through that, saw it. If they see something we need to be doing, but it's all there, and we'd love to figure out a way to put it out there and make it public. So, again, I think along that lines, having something that helps us communicate better, and again has the citizenry engaged in working with the police, not controlling whatever one way. How do we work together? The other thing that I think is critical is certainly we talked about bike patrols, getting out in the community. Those things that people came in and said, hey, we want to know the police and have a better relationship with the police in our area. It's the same thing that happened. Everybody talked about air conditioning on front porch. The same thing happens with air conditioning in cars. Sometimes when you're in the car, you're there, you're driving through the community, but you're not engaging with the community. So again, how we can work better. People like David Alexander said, listen, it was police officers in my community that got me to think about wanting to be a police officer. So how do we engage and make sure in every neighborhood we're engaged and we're more used to knowing the people we serve, and those are things we got to continue to keep working at. Again, we want to be a better community. We want to be a better force. If there's a way we can work together, we're going to figure out how to do it. But we're not here to promote certain agendas, and that's not our objective.
City Council?
Yes.
You've made it really clear that in hiring practices, you're seeking to have a more diverse administration, and you've obviously hired in that direction. It's a seat held by an African-American, largely African-American district. Do you prefer, because there are several white candidates that have put their name forward, do you prefer one?
again, Andrew, I said I am not gonna get involved in who they choose one way or the other preference. All I have is allow the electorate to make that decision. And again, I think when you allow, the individual who ought to have to go through that is one that has to go get votes. Same thing happens at the city. Same thing happens at the county. I mean, I think when we have an opportunity to get the electorate interested and have a large pool of candidates, I think we get a better discussion. I think a lot of ideas came out of that election, the mayor's election, and we're moving forward on a lot of those things, but they were ideas that were brought by other candidates. So I think the same thing could work if you have a District 5, but if you have a sitting incumbent, you're less likely to get that kind of same participation.
I've heard that the next month on the agenda, the pit slip lease is going to come up. Is that right? And
Yes, we are. I think finally finalized on that. I was not prepared to come forward at this moment because I was still waiting for Susan to give me the go ahead. But we do. I think we are at this point very close to doing that. Now, the one thing that is still a challenge is what was communicated to the master lease holder is the expectation that they will have prior to the city council, that they will have an agreement with their subtenant, which is the fish house. We do expect that to happen, but my understanding is that is at this point not happened and still in the works. So again, it's our goal to move forward and bring something to council. We're going to be sitting with all the council members. I know Susan's looking to talk with them, but at this particular time, I don't have all the details because there's no agreement necessarily between the subtenant. I will say we did look because of the challenge of the nature of the improvements that need to be made. The lessee was asking. We looked at a sale. It did not go in that way for a couple of things. It was past administration looked at it. We looked at it when we first started. What we saw was that probably was unlikely to happen. So what came back to us was a 99-year lease that would allow them to do that. We have those all over the place, so it seemed like a fairly good concept again to allow them to do it. They continue to stay with the rates they have for the next 27 years, but after that point, the rate increases by 108%. Whatever it is it's 4% per annum for those 27 years, and then it will reprice periodically every 3 years. So the city, I think it was every 5 years, it reprices. So again, the idea was it would reprice. The other part that we felt very good is even though we were the city was being asked to participate or was being told they had to reimburse for legal fees. We had an agreement from in the agreement that the city was not going to be required to pay legal fees, and instead the city is going to put $350,000 into the breakwater improvement, which will make that a public breakwater improvement that will be insurable and will stay there with the public. It's going to cost more than $350,000, an estimated around $1 million, and the remainder of that will have to come from the tenant. So they will put the remainder of that money into it, and it will be a public asset. Obviously, we'd love to see marine activity there, and opportunity for people to engage on the waterfront. A lot of things we're looking at, and how do we activate our waterfront, and part of it is we need facilities that will do that. Part of creating facilities is making sure that they're likely to be there through a storm. And so that breakwater is fairly important. Again, it's one of those things that's kind of crazy because when we typically have storms, they typically the way the counterclockwise flow is, that eastern side is wide open to the waves. So if you had a place like on the side of the Maritime Park, it's not as critical because the east wind and the south wind is already being blocked. So the fact that you're open on the west is not as critical because the wind that you have in a major storm is not coming from the west. It's typically coming from the south and the east. So that's what makes pit slip challenging. Is the direction it finds itself where we have our major storms. So that breakwater on the east side will be important in protecting that harbor. Otherwise, what we've seen is people have put dock improvements in there, and every time they've gotten washed away by whatever storm came in. And obviously, to find an investor that's willing to put that kind of money into we're not putting any money in the docks. To find an investor willing to put that kind of money into the docks, they want to know that somehow or another it's going to be there after a storm.
You said it's going to be about 1/3 city funded, 2/3 leasing funded.
Correct.
The MRO contract, have you guys, I thought maybe that had been announced, but you guys have figured out who's going to do the construction on that?
Well, my understanding is that the firm selection had gone through, but they've made choices, but they're still negotiating through that contract. So at this point, we can't comment until we get the final part. But my understanding is they have made at least a ranking, and now they are working to get an agreement. And once we have that agreement, we will bring it forward.
There was a program, I think it rolled out last spring, for home purchasing assistance for service and essential personnel in the city. I haven't heard much about that since. Has it been used widely? Is it still in operation?
We'll have to get you an answer back on that. I just don't know at this particular time. We'll talk with Marcy. I do know that Marcy has been working to pull together that task force that we voted on and Jewel wanted. So we're hoping to bring that forward probably somewhere in the next meeting or so. She's working on trying to put together that task force.
Is that the renters bill of rights kind of thing, or is this something?
No, this is the housing task force, the one that she wanted to figure out how they help us get to 100 units a year, 500 units in 5 years, affordable housing units. All right. Thank you very much. Have a